Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent. Listener discretion is advised. Life is sometimes made up of a series of turning points. Those moments where you question what would have happened if you would have turned left instead of turning right. And not to sound cheesy while quoting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, sometimes the best things to happen are the things that didn't happen. After not making the collegiate cheer team her freshman year of college, one fateful night at an MMA event led my next guest onto a path that has placed her on season 30, this current season of The Ultimate Fighter that can be seen on ESPN+. I'd like to welcome Kaytlin Katniss Neal to the show today. We have a lot to talk about in a short time to get there. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Caught on the Mic. The girl on fire, Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games, has nothing on the MMA Katniss. Kaytlin Neal, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I am great. Was that a proper introduction or what?
Oh, yeah.
So how's the weather where you're at today?
The weather? Oh, it's so great. It's beautiful here. It's like 90 degrees, not a cloud in the sky.
Perfect day for an outdoor workout then, right?
Oh, yeah.
So currently you can be seen on this season of The Ultimate Fighter, season 30, as part of Team Amanda Nunes. Let's talk about what got you there.
Yeah, so that was actually the second time I applied to be on The Ultimate Fighter. I tried out for, I can't remember what season it was, but it was the one where Deanna Bennett was on it. And so I went down there and tried out with her. I didn't make it. My record was nowhere near where good enough it needed to be. And I barely had enough fights to try out. So I knew I wasn't going to make it. But I wanted to get kind of on the UFC's radar just so they knew who I was. So that's why I went down and tried out the first time, didn't make it. And then this time rolled around again and I applied for it and they accepted me. So I was stoked for it.
Deanna Bennett is a teammate of yours, and that was season 26, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds about right.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got into MMA, because I think it's a pretty unique journey. As a podcaster that has a lot of fighters on his show, I think people are really enthralled by the fighter's journey. Not so much the wins or the losses, but the story behind the story. What makes a fighter a fighter? So, Kaytlin, how did you become a fighter?
Yeah, so in short, I didn't make the college cheer team, and so I started fighting. But I just love competing. So I found fighting, and I kind of saw fighting as a sport that I could do up until my 40s or whatever, and then I can compete even past that in jiu-jitsu or whatever in masters if I wanted to. So it's kind of more of something I could do the rest of my life instead of just the short span of cheerleading. It's once you hit college, if you don't go pro, then you're kind of just done, and you don't really see cheerleaders in their 30s cheerleading. So I wanted to find a sport where I could compete and learn and grow the rest of my life. And so that's how I found martial arts.
That's admirable. If I read correctly, did you go to your first MMA fight as a freshman in college?
Yeah, so I went to some just local MMA fights, and there was only one women's fight on the card. And I think I was even lucky that there was a women's fight way back then in Utah on the card. And once I watched that fight, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that. That is so cool.
So who are some of the fighters early on in your career that really inspired you and kind of lit that fire for you?
Yeah, so there was a local professional fighter. Her name was Tandy Schaefer. She retired soon after I started, but she kind of really inspired me. She was really big in the local scene, but women weren't allowed in the UFC then, or unless I'm sure she would have been in the UFC. so she really inspired me. And then also, I think my first like really fangirl moment was like Miesha Tate when I saw her on The Ultimate Fighter, because that's when I started seeing like, oh, there's other like women that like do this sport, and I felt like I kind of like resembled her a little bit, so I really kind of like looked up to her.
So you have a background in cheer and gymnastics. Which came first, and where did you really find your footing in those sports?
So I started with dance and gymnastics ever since I could like walk. I've always been very like athletic in that way. And then I started cheerleading. I believe my first year was in 7th grade. So I did cheerleading for 6 years. I was like an all-star cheerleader. I was varsity as a freshman, and then I was captain my senior year. And so then when I didn't make the college team, I was like, wait, what? I was like, why? How did I not make it? Like, I was like so confused. And like, it was just like the weirdest thing, but like, it ended up becoming like obviously way better for me.
So have you stayed involved with like the NCA and done any cheer seminars or anything along those lines?
No, I am so outdated in the sport. Like, if I went back onto a team or like went back to coaches, I'd be so lost. But I feel like I would be a good conditioning coach for them. Just like I'm familiar with the sport, so I know how they would like me for that.
The reason I asked that is I had Peta Macias on my show a few weeks ago, and she still does some of those camps. And full transparency, my teenage stepdaughter just made her varsity cheer team this last year at the tail end of her freshman year. So as a cheer dad, I kind of have some sentiment with it.
Yeah, I think the last thing I did that was like even close related to cheer was like you're on Netflix. So kind of brought me back to that mentality.
How has the cheerleading and the gymnastics been applied to your fight career thus far?
Yeah, so I think any athlete, male or female, should have a base in ballet or gymnastics. I feel like it helps you move your body through space and helps you develop all that coordination. And that can translate into basically any sport you want to go and play. So having the dance and related background and the gymnastics background really helped me pick up the moves a lot easier. Just because I started when I had like a month left of being 19. So I was like basically 20. And so that's a little bit late to like learn a brand new sport. And so I think that
one of the things that I've observed since watching this season of The Ultimate Fighter is how you leverage your social media to build a personal brand. That is something that I feel is really important. Is this something that's been nudged at you by management or something you came up with on your own?
I have a lot of fun with social media, so I just kind of like enjoy doing it. Like I didn't really like Instagram before there was Reels, but I like really like making Reels and making like short videos and like making people laugh. And so that's kind of like something I truly enjoy doing. But before that, like I worked for a supplement company where I was kind of like their face of the company. I did like martial arts, workout programs, and like put the supplements with it. So that's kind of, they helped me with marketing. And I feel like that marketing background, like working that job, has really helped even like my MMA career. Cause I'm pretty sure I got my fight on Bellator, which was my second pro fight. Just because I had like a pretty big social media following. So they're like, oh, I guess we'll give this girl a shot, even though my record was 0-2 at the time. So I think it's definitely helped me.
Maybe the reason I make such a staunch parallel is my time in the music industry, but I do realize the importance of posting that 1 to 2 minute video every day, or posting 2 to 4 times a day like Gary Vee suggests you do. Is this something that you feel that more fighters could benefit from if they embraced the social media and made themselves a little bit more active with fight fans as they establish their brand?
Oh yeah. I feel like people, like that's what they want to see. Like watching the fights are awesome, but also if like you really like that fighter, then you kind of want to see what they're doing outside of the cage too. Like what made them go into a cage to like want to like beat someone up, you know? So I feel like all fighters should just be like showcasing that a little bit more. And plus it also helps with like brand deals and sponsorships and being able to like earn money outside of fighting as well.
It's been a lot of fun to watch you, Chandler Cole, and Zach Ponga since this season of The Ultimate Fighter started interact with one another and create those videos. I've seen Zach increase his social media presence a ton, and I'm like, yeah, brother, get after it.
Yeah, totally. I think Bobby kind of helped Zach with that, like kind of taught him like you need to market a little better. And then I gave him like a couple tips here and there, like for sponsorship or whatever, like products and stuff like that. But I think his reels are starting to become like pretty funny. So I'm glad that he's getting out.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was like one of my favorite people in the house. And I think so Chandler was loud and stirred the pot a lot, but he was loud about it. But I think the person who was stirring the pot the most was Zach, but he was just more reserved and quiet about it. So people didn't really like pinpoint him. But I really think Zach was like the true pot stirrer of the house.
Now, I heard Juliana Miller say that he was the dad of the house, but I didn't hear that he was the pot stirrer of the house. For real, that's fantastic. Now, let's talk a little bit about your time on The Ultimate Fighter. I know there's things we can't talk about because of NDAs, but your next fight is next week, right?
It does. Yep. Almost there. I was like the very first girl fight and now I'm the very last.
So how pumped are you for everybody to see it?
Oh, so pumped. I get everything over with and like move on and like kind of like work from there, Blessing of the show aside, do you feel like it's slowed your momentum down because you have to play this wait and see game? Yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, it's really bumped it up since like I've gotten out of the house, but then also at the same time, I feel like, okay.
So let's talk a little bit about what's happened in the house up to this point, up to this current episode. Do you feel like there's things that the audience has missed out on due to editing or something of that nature?
I honestly just wish the episodes would be like an hour and a half, just so they can show a little bit more of what was going on in the house. Just because Mitch lost his first fight like so soon and so early, and Mitch was hilarious. Like he was so funny in the house, and he also had like crazy like drama and stuff. So I wish they would have shown a lot more of Mitch and his personality. And then like just kind of like the things that like went on in the house, like Chandler was constantly doing something every day, and so he was hilarious to watch. And then I kind of feel like they didn't show that, like some people like Hannah, they didn't show very much of her, or even Claire was so nice and so cool and so chill. So I just wish they would show the person they just like full.
So I've read that you're a fan of reality TV, and one of the observations that I've noticed is there's not a lot of that manufactured drama like you would get off of a Real Housewives or a Road Rules or a Real World or a Survivor or something of the like. The producers were really kind to all of you guys, weren't they?
I almost feel like the producers are really nice. Like I've heard like producers on The Bachelor are kind of like mean and will literally like cut and splice things together. But I feel like they watered down a lot of the things that happened in the house. Like they could have made some people look so much more crazy or wild than they did. So I feel like they were kind of like nice to us a little bit. I got like a really good edit, so I was like super happy with that. Like, but I feel like some of the things I said and like some of my sense of humor could have been taken the wrong way, and they definitely could have just like turned things on their head and made me look like I was some like diva ditzy girl or whatever.
Yeah, my intent is definitely not to put you in front of the firing squad here, but do you feel that any of the fighters were misrepresented due to editing or mischaracterized, if you will, not the true self?
Mischaracterized? No.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
It was very accurate. If anything, it was watered down.
No, that's totally fair. It's kind of like one of those never meet your idols kind of things when you see somebody in one perspective and find out about them in another.
Yeah. I thought I was a little bit like crazy going into the house or like wild or whatever, but I'm like, I grew up in like Utah County, like bubble, like Mormon, like it was sheltered, and like I am not as crazy as I thought I was. So.
You were quoted early on in saying that you thought you would be a good fit for Juliana Pena's team because your fighting styles were very similar. Do you have any regrets about your team choice or who chose you?
I definitely ended up in the right place. I think if I would have been on Team Pena, I would have been like miserable. And it wasn't because of her coaching. I think Juliana had like awesome coaching. But I just think like the vibe of her team and the way they acted, the way they like interacted with each other, I just probably wouldn't have gotten along with them as well as I did with Team Nunes. And like we were having fun at practice, and it was like hanging out with us. It was like a really good team and a really good vibe the whole time. And that's what really made my experience on the Ultimate Fighter, is like having that like team aspect and just having like fun with it too.
There's probably a lot to be said also by working with somebody whose style is different than yours, so you were able to get some of Amanda's tools in your toolbox.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, like learning from one of the greatest women of all time, to like you can't get worse from going through that, you know?
And one hell of an axe thrower, too. Did you guys get to throw axes after that coach's challenge?
No, they didn't let us.
That sucks.
Actually, should have let us do that. Yeah, I would have loved to have like destroyed Mo in it or something.
Yeah, like a team challenge. That would have been awesome. So let's talk a little bit about your time outside of the ring a little bit. What are some of your hobbies and some of your interests?
That is a hard question because like I basically just like wake up, train, work, and then I go back and train at night. So I guess I'm a business owner. I guess that's kind of surprising to people. People think I'm just like sponsored by Bad Athletics, but it's actually like my company. I own it and I help like develop the products in the beginning. So it's like, yeah, I'm a business owner as well as a fighter. But other than that, I basically just like online shopping and doing something that's like pretty chill because I'm always like constantly like working out or training or doing something that I just kind of like to completely just chill.
All said and done, being an entrepreneur probably takes up plenty of time though, doesn't it?
Oh, yes. Yes, it does.
So do you work with any other fighters or fitness figures while promoting your brand or having them endorse your brand?
Yeah, so we do have a lot of ambassadors that promote Bad Athletics. It's mainly fitness people, but we'll probably start sponsoring a little bit more fighters now that the show is like ending.
Sure.
Soon we'll sponsoring people from the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah. So were there any relationships that you made as a result of the show that are still going today?
I feel like the people I talk to most, so Chandler, he says he texts and calls everybody every single day, and I 100% believe that because I get a call or a Snapchat from him every single day. I'm like, how do you have so much time to be able to like contact everybody? Like the people I hear from the most are probably like Chandler, Niall, Zach, and Bobby. Those are the people like I talk to the most. Occasionally I'll hear from like Kat or Brogan on social media, occasionally Claire. And then I talk to Hannah like quite a bit. Like she always wants to come and train, but I haven't been in Vegas since the show to go back and like train with Hannah. But yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like the relationship, still have relationships with people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I thought about this last week since I was at High Altitude Martial Arts, home of Elevation Fight Team last week. Have you ever considered visiting one of your teammates' gyms just to check it out?
Yeah, so I would love to go to Colorado and go train with Claire and like maybe see Zach. I would train with him. I think Colorado, like, I don't know, Claire's teammates seem like they're really like high level, high caliber, and Claire's like a bad A. Like I did not want to fight her in the house. So she, I think it would be really fun to go out and train with her and see like how Colorado's doing. Plus it's similar like altitude to Utah. So I think I would like that. But I definitely want to keep my fit. martial arts just because I love the girls team there. I love working with like John Wood, and it's been such like a fun and good environment for me to be in.
That's awesome. Now, is there somebody that lived in the house that maybe you would look forward to having a matchup with later on down the line? A fight, if you will?
Yes, but I'm just going to leave it there.
Oh, you're not going to say who?
No, I'm not going to comment.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll back off. I won't push too much further.
We'll see. I don't know.
That's not a no. That's not a no. So what happens in the next 6 months for Kaytlin Neal in her MMA career? Give us a little insight of how you see the future panning out.
Yeah, so I mean, my main goal is just to get a UFC contract. So however that looks, whether I get it from fighting on the finale or whether I get it through getting signed somehow, that's my ultimate main goal. And I think I can achieve that within the next 6 months. And then if not, just like continue just working hard, keep fighting, doing what I'm doing, building up my brand, building up the promotion, obviously like building up my skills, just so I can fight at a high level and be able to like dominate at a high level.
You know, that was another thing I was pondering the other day, was how many people, win or lose, that have been on the show, been on The Ultimate Fighter, still end up with UFC contracts. It's happened more times than not, hasn't it?
Yeah, and then even if like they don't get a UFC contract, it's really likely that if a fight falls out like for a UFC card, that they'll just pull someone that was on The Ultimate Fighter and put them in short notice for the fight. So I mean, it's not a loss either way. Like, you're definitely on the UFC's radar.
Absolutely. So what is your advice for making the world a better place today?
Whew, I feel like that's a deep, loaded question. I would say basically just making, it's cliche, but like making yourself like the best version you can be. So, and that reflects out onto other people. So if you can share your light with other people, it will help it will help their light grow, and then they can spread that on. I mean, as far as like big, huge, like controversial things, obviously, like I don't know how much like one individual can make a huge difference unless they like really, really go after and really are passionate about it. So if you do have that passion, and if you are outwardly like open about it,
it's a very unique and loaded question to ask fighters in particular. I believe you and I could probably agree that the sport of mixed martial arts has changed so much in even as short as the past 5 to 10 years that there's a lot of stereotypes that need to be broken. It has become more about athleticism versus just blunt force trauma. So I always ask that question because the insight that a fighter gives, that fighter's journey, I think is really important for my listeners to take away from that answer and apply a sense of insight to their own lives.
Interesting. I like it.
So, of course, there's nothing you can share with us today, but after the show is all said and done, you're going to have some big news for us really soon, right?
Yep.
Hey, Kaytlin, thank you very much for doing the show. I appreciate it. I hope to have you on again sometime soon.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun talking to you.
Once again, I'd like to thank Kaytlin Katniss Neal for being on the show today. You can find her on Instagram at Kaytlin Katniss MMA. Search her out, find out what she has going on, and you can also see her on season 30 of The Ultimate Fighter, available now on ESPN+. Friends, while you are checking things out, please check out the newly renovated www.caughtonthemic.com. Give me a follow on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. Wherever you cruise your social media, And please give me that 5-star review on the Apple Podcast app as well as Spotify. This has been Caught on the Mic with Michael Clark. I'm Michael Clark. Until next time, thank you.